Greetings, this is the Timeshare Traveler. Today is episode 71, a cross-country trip using Wyndham Timeshares. Well, I managed to do a cross-country trip using Wyndham Timeshares, and I'll go into all the details of how I did that with an overview and a step-by-step where I stayed, why I stayed, what were the advantages of, and the thing I learned about that as an option that you can do with a one timeshare. Before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about my channel, then I'll dive right into the details. Hi, my name is Cliff and I'm the Timeshare Traveler. The purpose of this channel is to provide education and knowledge for those interested in timeshares. I've been a timeshare owner for over 15 years. I'm an elite owner with Marriott Vacation Club, Hilton Grand Vacations, and WorldMark by Wyndham. I've also posted over 70 timeshare video reviews of different locations, and I've posted 40 timeshare video tips. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button below, and I can be found at Timeshare Trav on Twitter and Facebook, and my website is www.timesharetraveler.com. And now for the overview of Timeshare Traveler episode 71. So the topics I'll cover will be: does Wyndham offer an ability to travel across the country similar to an RV without using the gas that an RV would use? And I'll go into the outline of the trip that I've done and a map of the location so you can see it visually as well as the details. Then I'll go through each one of the places that I stayed on a brief eastbound leg, and lastly I'll follow that up with the westbound leg and show you what I've been able to do traveling exclusively in Wyndham/WorldMark timeshares. So the real question is, does Wyndham offer an ability to travel similar to an RV without the gas usage driving in your car? So to me, I look at this not as one versus another. I look at it more as another option. So I have the option now that I'm doing it. I've kind of surprised myself that I can do this. So in addition, I could do it in a hotel, but the hotels can be expensive because you're always having to eat out and so forth. Whereas an RV and a timeshare are similar in the sense that you couldn't do your own cooking, buy your food, and so forth. So they have a lot of money-saving options, in my opinion. So Wyndham has destinations all across the country. And by Wyndham, I mean WorldMark/Wyndham, all in the family, I guess, Shell and various other things, but not staying at the hotels. I didn't use all the options, but I managed to create a trip that used many of the options I wanted to do. And this was a bit of an experiment. I probably will do something similar, but I'll probably stay a little longer at each one of the locations. I tried to stay 2 to 3 days because I really didn't want to make the drive a real complex, demanding to get where I'm going. I wanted to enjoy the trip across the country and see as much as I could. So usually it was 3 days, but some of them were just 2 days. I don't want to say it's the same as an RV. An RV, you have much greater flexibility to stay exactly where you want to do. I know there are trade-offs in every which way, and I'm not trying to one over the other. Just timeshares work better for me. It's just my choice, but not necessarily the right choice for everyone. So driving your car, I'm saving on gas, and it's particularly appropriate right now. And gas is somewhere around, depending on where you are, in the $4s to $6s a gallon. So that's a significant difference than driving with an RV. The other trade-off though is in a car. If you're living out of your car, we'll call it that. I'm doing that. So you don't have as much storage space as an RV. So that's the flip side trade-off. So it's it's a balancing act of what works best for you. And for me, I decided on timeshares for other reasons, for many reasons, I should say. In my opinion, this is my opinion, that I view timeshares as more luxurious than an RV. And I'm not so much talking about, I know you can get quite a luxurious looking RV itself. It's more like the pool at the timeshare, and there might be a jacuzzi, there's activities, there's all kinds of things. Not saying that there aren't those in the RV parks, but again, that adds a much higher cost to your travel even with an RV. So in my opinion, Wyndham has added another option that I wasn't aware of before, and that is to travel across country. So let me go into a little bit more of the trip itself. Now I'm going to talk about the outline of my cross-country trip, and it's not totally cross-country because I end in Ohio. I'm heading toward a family reunion, so I start in San Francisco, and I'm going through the southern U.S., ending up in Ohio family reunion. I'm driving west back to San Francisco, going on a more northern, so I'm not really having to retrace my steps, which I thought was pretty amazing. Again, that's one of the things that I would have, if you had told me 5 years ago, I would have said, oh, you have to have an RV to do something as capable as that. But it looks like it's possible. I try to keep my driving to 8 hours. It's not always done. I've had a couple legs a little more than that. I'd like to keep it at 6 hours between stops, but that's not always possible, just to give you a general idea. I'm staying with family and my family reunion, and I'm at a high school. It happens to be that I'm tag teaming two things at once. I'm at a high school reunion and I'm staying at a hotel, but otherwise I'm staying at the Wyndham Timeshares. And if I weren't going to the family reunion or the high school reunion, I probably would have stayed in Timeshares the whole time. So it's kind of a side trip is the way I look at it. And again, gas prices, I say above $5. There's places it's below, but the average I think now is $5. And that may be lower or higher when you watch this video, but it's probably not going to be $2 like it was 2 years ago. And again, timeshares are more luxurious than hotels, but so this is kind of like, again, like being on an RV trip, and I already talked about that. And again, it's got the similar thing again that RVs have, is that you can cook. And I buy most of my food at Costco. I just find the Costco on the drive where I'm heading to, and I just sort of restock as I go. Okay, now I'll actually show you a map of the cross-country trip. For those of you that are a little more visual, I just want to show you a map of the trip that I've got. So if you look at the map, you can see the sort of red lines. That's me heading east, and I call that southern U.S. It's not, I could probably go farther south, but in general, that's south. And then I'm heading back on the blue lines with a slight jog to the south, really staying in Nashville at the Club Wyndham there, and then heading up to Indiana for the reunion, and then heading back across the west, heading up north. I do go back down south in California to Oceanside, and then I don't really drive out around like the picture shows, but I wanted to show the blue line going back up to San Francisco. I'll drive basically on some of the same roads as I did heading down to Solvang. So there's a visual, and let me go into the details of each one of those so I can tell you where I actually stayed. Okay, now we'll talk about the eastbound leg of the trip. Starting east in San Francisco, just in the southeast, actually heading to Solvang, WorldMark Solvang, and having some Danish and wine tasting. And then I went to Bear Lake, which is nestled in the mountains outside of LA. My third stop's in the woods near Flagstaff, Arizona, at the Club Wyndham Flagstaff. And then I'm going to eastern Oklahoma at the Grand Lake, and I'm staying at the Ozark Mountains, WorldMark Ozark Mountains. And I really those are relatively close together, the last two, but it would put me within driving distance of a 10-hour drive to my family reunion. So I wanted to make sure that I kept my drives to a minimum. So that's the eastbound leg. Let me go through the westbound leg. Okay, now we'll talk about the westbound leg. Although I'd call it westbound, the first stop is in Nashville, which is kind of south of where my family reunion was. But it was a nice stopover place that I hadn't been to in a long time. I was just there for once before for work, and now I'm going to enjoy myself in Nashville. And then I'm going to my high school reunion. Then from my high school reunion in Indiana, I'm going to Galena, Illinois. That's a WorldMark. My third stop is at Colorado Estes Park, which I've been wanting to go for a long time. And this is one of those places, probably like Flagstaff, where I want to go back to again. And even Big Bear, I'd go back again. And then I'm going to head just a short distance over to Steamboat Springs. I figured while I'm doing this trip, I might as well, see a little bit more Colorado, and I might decide between Estes Park and Steamboat Springs. I've already been to Pagosa Springs before. So that would be interesting. And then my fifth stop is at the Red Rocks of St. George, and I'm really excited about that. I drove through one other time when I was heading up to Salt Lake City on another sort of not quite cross-country trip, but similar. And so I want to stay in St. George, and again, that would be seems like a place I want to spend a little bit longer. And then I'm heading down to Oceanside, Pier, just north of San Diego. It's right on the water, and I have a 2-bedroom there. I'm looking forward to that. And then from there, I'll just take a longish drive up to San Francisco. So there you have the outline of the trip, the eastbound, westbound legs. I hope you enjoy this this video, and if you do, please subscribe. But to me, it's kind of an eye-opener, and it's probably obvious to the others, but it wasn't to me. So I thought I'd share that with you, that this gives me kind of an option like having an RV. Again, not as not as pinpoint accuracy of where you want to stay. I have a little more, just get to the general area and potentially drive. Like in Flagstaff, I'm probably 2 hours away from the Grand Canyon, whereas an RV you could park right at the Grand Canyon itself. So it's not perfectly doing it, but again, if you've invested in timeshares, you have some, we'll call it RV-like living available to you. Again, I hope you appreciate the video, and I hope this is helpful to give you options on how you might use your timeshares.